Demetrious Johnson is considered by many as one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, and to some, he has earned the title as GOAT. Because although it seemed like the pinnacle of his career was going to be his defeat to Dominick Cruz for the Bantamweight Championship, things changed once the UFC started the flyweight division, and it was here where Demetrious not only captured the belt and became the inaugural champion, but he also defended it a record 11 times, and the moment Demetrious finally did lose the belt, he ended up being traded to ONE, where he continued his greatness by becoming the promotion's flyweight champion and Grand Prix winner. But despite his success in the UFC, Demetrious' title reign was not appreciated while it was happening, and at one point, UFC president Dana White wanted to put an end to the flyweight division because of this. So how good was Demetrious Johnson actually? Demetrious began his MMA career on August 15th, 2009 at the age of 23. Back in high school, he was a standout athlete in wrestling, track, and cross country. Afterwards, he began training in MMA as a hobby, which led to him being scouted by MMA pioneer Matt Hume. And after going 9-0 as an amateur, Demetrious won his first 2 pro bouts before fighting Jesse Brock. And it took DJ only 96 seconds to finish Jesse with a beautiful overhand right and a head kick. Following this victory, he fought the 18-4 Brad Pickett, and this fight was just too much too soon for DJ because although he showed out on the feet, he got taken down many times throughout this fight, which led to a unanimous decision defeat. But commentator Joe Rogan pointed out that if the WEC added a flyweight division, Demetrious would thrive there as he was a smaller bantamweight. Regardless, Demetrious continued to find success at 135 afterwards as he picked up 2 wins in a row against Nick Pace and Damasio Page before the WEC merged with the UFC. So in February of 2011, DJ made his UFC debut against Japanese superstar Norifumi Yamamoto, who had a lot of hype coming into his UFC debut. But Demetrious spoiled that as he put on a solid performance by controlling Yamamoto on the feet and on the ground, which led to the unanimous decision victory. After this, Demetrious fought longtime WEC bantamweight champion Miguel Torres. And despite Miguel's size advantage and DJ breaking his fibula early in the second due to a checked leg kick, he was able to control the action with his wrestling, and although he got swept 6 times in this fight, he was still able to get the unanimous decision victory. These 2 wins led to a shot at the UFC bantamweight championship against champion Dominick Cruz. And despite DJ pressing forward for the most part, Dominick was able to avoid most of his attacks on the feet and his takedowns. In return, he was able to counter DJ and take him down, and by the end, Cruz won by unanimous decision. This defeat really showed that despite his skill, Demetrious was just too small to beat the best at 135. But then in 2012, the UFC decided to add in a flyweight division. And to determine the inaugural champion, they held a 4-man tournament, and of course, Demetrious had to be one of the fighters. So in the opening round, he fought Ian McCall, which marked the first flyweight bout in UFC history. Despite the fight being a 3-rounder, a rule was added that if the judges scored it as a draw at the end, a sudden death round would have occurred afterwards. And this was a fight that seemed to be heading that way because despite DJ having a little bit more success on the feet than Ian in the first 2 rounds, the third was all Ian, who scored multiple takedowns and almost finished DJ at the end of the fight. But in the end, it was Demetrious who was awarded with the majority decision victory. But then at the post-fight press conference, Dana announced that the bout had been scored incorrectly as it was actually a majority draw, which not only meant we missed out on an epic sudden death round, but the decision was also corrected. So 3 months later, DJ and Ian fought again, and although it was competitive like their first fight, Demetrious was finding more success with his striking and wrestling, which led to the unanimous decision victory. Demetrious advanced to the finals of the tournament at UFC 152, where he fought Joseph Benavidez. And this was a competitive 5-round battle that saw both men find success on the feet. But with Demetrious scoring 5 takedowns throughout this fight, he was awarded with the split decision victory in the end, which made him the inaugural UFC flyweight champion. In his first title defense, Demetrious fought Ultimate Fighter winner John Dodson. And this was a fun fight due to the speed of both fighters, and although John had his moments on the feet, Demetrious had more, especially in the clinch, and he also secured takedowns throughout the fight, which earned him the unanimous decision victory. 6 months later, Demetrious fought John Moraga, and after controlling the action for a majority of the fight, DJ secured an armbar at the end of the 5th, which forced John to tap. Following this victory, DJ fought Joseph Benavidez for a second time, and in contrast to their first fight, Demetrious connected with a huge right hand in the first that knocked Joe out. In his 4th title defense, Demetrious fought Ali Bagatinov, and after a very dominant performance from Demetrious that saw him win all 5 rounds, the judges awarded him with the unanimous decision, and afterwards, it was revealed that Ali tested positive for EPO. At UFC 178, DJ fought Chris Carey lariaso, and after dominating him on the feet, DJ was able to lock up a Kimura in the second round that forced a tap. 7 months later, Demetrious fought Kyoji Horiguchi, and although Kyoji had his moments early on in this fight, DJ was having more, and it was clear Kyoji couldn't keep up with the champ's pace. It seemed like the fight was going to go to the judges' scorecards, but in the final 10 seconds, DJ locked up an armbar, and with 1 second remaining, Kyoji was forced to tap, making this the latest stoppage in UFC history. Following this win, Demetrious fought John Dodson for a second time, and although this fight went all 5 rounds, it was not as close as the first bout, as DJ was controlling the action on the feet and on the ground for a majority of the fight, which led to the unanimous decision victory. In his 8th title defense, Demetrious fought Olympic gold wrestler Henry Cejudo, and although it seemed like Henry was going to be a tough test for DJ, Demetrious was able to finish Henry in the first with knees to the body. DJ's next fight was against Ultimate Fighter winner Tim Elliott, and although Demetrious was the heavy favorite, Tim looked like he was going to pull off the upset by locking up a Darce choke that looked really tight. But DJ escaped and went on to dominate with his striking and grappling, which led to the unanimous decision victory. 4 months later, Demetrious fought Wilson Hayes, and this was another one-sided performance that ended in the third when DJ locked up an armbar that forced Wilson to tap. This win tied Anderson's record for most consecutive UFC title defenses, which meant Demetrious had the opportunity to break this record in his next title defense against Ray Borg. And that's what he did, as he controlled Ray on the feet and on the ground before submitting him in the 5th round in what may be one of the greatest finishes ever, as DJ went for the suplex armbar that forced the tap. At UFC 227, Demetrious fought Henry Cejudo for a second time, and in contrast to their first bout, this fight went all 5 rounds and was extremely competitive, as Demetrious had the slight edge when it came to striking, but Henry had the slight edge when it came to takedowns and ground control. Overall, it was a very high level and tactical fight that could have went to either man, but in the end, it was Henry who won by split decision. With DJ's title reign ending, many were wondering what would be next for him, because although he was warranted a rematch and a 3rd fight against Henry, the UFC was happy to see the belt change hands, because although DJ's dominance was legendary, it really halted the growth of the flyweight division. So not only did the promotion not give DJ another shot at the title, but they decided to get rid of him completely, because in October of 2018, it was announced that the UFC would be trading Demetrious to 1 for Ben Askren, which was a move unlike any other. So off to Asia he went, and in March of 2019, Demetrious made his debut with the promotion against Yuya Wakamatsu. Although this was a quarterfinal fight in the Flyweight World Grand Prix, one's flyweight division is actually 135 pounds, so DJ was technically back in the division that he originally started in. And he looked great against Yuya, as he denied the takedowns, ate some shots, and brought the fight down, which led to a 2nd round guillotine that forced the tap. In the semi-finals, Demetrious fought Tatsumitsu Wada, and although DJ faced some adversity with Wada taking his back, he was able to survive and find success in the clinch and on the ground, where he opened up Tatsumitsu pretty badly. In the end, DJ won by unanimous decision. In the finals of the Grand Prix, Demetrious fought Danny Kingad, and DJ's pressure on the feet and on the ground was too much for Danny, which led to the unanimous decision victory for Demetrious, and thus making him the 1 flyweight Grand Prix tournament winner. After this, Demetrious fought for the 1 flyweight championship against champion Adriano Moraes, and overall, Adriano did a good job in using his size to maintain the distance and deny the takedowns, which led to success on the feet and on the ground. In the 2nd round, he connected with an uppercut that dropped DJ, and as Demetrious tried to get back up, he ate a grounded knee, which is legal in 1, and this led to more punches that forced the ref to step in. 5 months later, DJ fought in a special rules fight against Muay Thai fighter Rod Tang, where rounds 1 and 3 were fought in a Muay Thai rule set, while rounds 2 and 4 were fought in an MMA rule set. Despite a strong first round from Rod Tang, he was unable to get the finish, so in round 2, DJ brought him down and locked up a rear naked choke that put him to sleep. It's not an official win on DJ's record, but I thought it was a fun fight. But in August of 2022, Demetrious went back to full-on MMA and fought Adriano Moraes for a 2nd time. And this was a crazy back and forth battle on the feet, as both men were throwing bombs. And when it came to the grappling, Adriano was finding more success as he denied the takedown and secured some of his own, which led to some brutal ground and pound. Honestly, it seemed like DJ was not going to be able to overcome Adriano's size, which reminded me of the narrative that he faced when he was a bantamweight years ago. But then in the 4th, he connected with a right hand that hurt Adriano, and this led to a flying knee that knocked him out, making Demetrious the 1 flyweight champion. With both men winning a fight each, one decided to make the trilogy fight between the two in May of 2023. And this was a more tamed fight, as both men mostly engaged in the clinch, where DJ found more success. He was also successful with his striking and even secured a takedown. It was clear that Adriano was tentative, as he respected DJ's power, but this led to him not really pushing the action, which led to Demetrious controlling the fight. In the end, DJ won by unanimous decision. And this ended up being his last MMA fight because on September 6, 2024, Demetrious announced his retirement from the sport. After his speech, ONE CEO Chatri Sityodong announced that DJ was the first inductee in the ONE Hall of Fame. Even Dana White stated that Demetrious will for sure be a UFC Hall of Famer. So after going 25-4-1 in a career that saw him become the UFC flyweight champion and the ONE flyweight champion, how good was Demetrious Johnson actually? There is no doubt that Demetrious is one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. He was a threat everywhere the fight went, his striking was phenomenal, and although he wasn't the biggest knockout artist, surprisingly his biggest knockout wins came against his toughest opponents. His Muay Thai was high level as he was comfortable with trading in the clinch with his opponents. His wrestling was some of the best we've seen at flyweight as he was great at securing takedowns. His grappling was amazing as his BJJ skills led to 12 submission wins out of his 25 victories. On top of all of this, he was so quick and strong, so overall, he was just such a complete fighter, and whenever we saw him fight, we were watching the highest level of MMA. But funny enough, for the longest time, DJ was one of the most underrated fighters, because during his UFC title reign, many did not appreciate his greatness. I was at UFC 152 when Demetrious won the belt, and honestly, the crowd was not loving it, and for me, it really was a sign for what was to come, because no matter how good DJ looked, MMA fans simply did not care. You would hear boos during his fights, his pay-per-view numbers were not good, and at one point, Dana wanted to get rid of the flyweight division. Demetrious was so dominant that in a way, it hurt the growth of the flyweight division, and because of this, a lot of people did not care about the flyweights, and I think the timing of this was bad because the division had just started, so to see it just get dominated by one man right away made a lot of people not respect the level of competition. And personally, this is probably the only reason why I don't consider Demetrious to be the GOAT, because the level of competition he faced in some fights were just not that great. And I know that every long-time champion is going to have title defenses against subpar competition, but the tough challenges that they did face were high-level competitors that built their own legacies. And I think this is where being the inaugural champion of a new division really hurt Demetrious, because although he beat greats like Joseph Benavidez and Henry Cejudo and Kyoji Horiguchi, they weren't recognized as so until years later when we look at their careers in retrospect. Everyone DJ faced were new faces that not many people knew about, and then when you compare that to John Jones's light heavyweight title reign where he fought the likes of Shogun Rua, Lyoto Machida, Rampage Jackson, and Daniel Cormier, it's easy to see why many think Demetrious didn't face tough competition. But regardless of who he faced during his championship reign, there is no denying that defending the belt a record-breaking 11 times is really impressive because it's so easy for a fighter to have an off night. But DJ never really had that as champion, and even when he lost the belt, he still looked amazing. Even when he did go up against competition that we look back on today and see that they weren't the highest level of competitors, Demetrious made statements in those fights by absolutely dominating them. And he continued that domination in ONE, and honestly, this move to ONE really helped many people understand how underappreciated Demetrious Johnson was. Mighty Mouse is a legend, that's why I would give his MMA career a 10 out of 10.